All been scared of something that we don't know about, isn't it? When I was really young, I don't know. I think I was 5 or 6. My mother, she said, "Okay, you're old enough. You have to go to school now." And I was like, "No, I'm not going to do it." "What school? Why? I don't want to go to school." So she said, "No, you have to go. Everyone has to go to school. It's for your benefit." So I didn't want to go to school. And the next thing, then she was like, "All right, let's go get ice cream. Everyone get in the car. We're going to get ice cream." I said, "But it's so early in the morning." "But this is good. I'll go." So we jumped in the car, and I'm thinking, chocolate, vanilla, like, what am I going to... So we pull up in front of the school. My mother's like, "Okay, now we're at school. Get out. Go to school." And I'm like, "But I don't know. I don't know what school is." So you can imagine, and right, even now, we have so many fears. But you can imagine being a little child. We've all been there. Who's at school? What's going to happen? What happens if kids don't like me? What happens if I don't like it? It's uncomfortable. You don't know what's going to happen. So finally, I started seeing some other kids playing, and kind of looked like fun. So, but still, I was comfortable, with my mother. That's all I knew, So she, it's like, "No, you have to do this. You have to do this." So I went, and I was very reluctant. But when you get in the classroom, the teacher, she's nice. She's really nice. She makes everyone feel welcome there. And then you meet some kids, some other kids that are there, and hey, this is kind of fun, right? You start doing some stuff, and pretty soon, it's not so bad. You start actually enjoying it. So when I grew up and went to middle school, then I got into sports. I got into other things. So my relationships became a lot more involved. And pretty soon it was like, I have to go to school. I have to be part of the scene that I'm, my friends and my social relationships, they need me on the team, I did wrestling, I did basketball, I did different sports. My friends are counting on me. I have to go. So in that way, I became more involved in high school. It's like, I can't wait to go to school to show off and be cool, right? And there's a girl I like, so I really want to go to school. Monday, I'll pass her a note. "I love you." So that's in that way. In the beginning, I was very scared. What is this school? I don't know what it is. But ultimately, I started to see the benefits, of education. Then as I became educated, I became more and more liking school. I was like, hey, this is great. And to the point that, then you couldn't hold me back from school. But then, I won't mention that, but then there was a point where I didn't want to go to school at all, and I quit going to school. Because you're like, all right, I'm done with that. But has anyone ever had that experience? What about, has anyone had the experience of being scared to swim or anything like that? Scared to get in cold water?
Scared to go down a slide.
Scared to go on, okay.
Cool. Scared.
Get a shark?
Somebody pushed you. So I grew up in a small town, Battle Mountain, Nevada, and there was it's a mining town. So one of the old pits, it was they mined for gold, but they filled it up with water, and I guess they said it's bottomless. Nobody could find the bottom; it's so deep. But around the banks, it's not so deep. But when I was little, also, then it was very cold water. So I was, my family was playing, my friends were playing, and everyone's like, "Come in, it's great. We're having a great time. Don't you want to swim and enjoy?" But I was like, not so much scared of swimming, but more, it was cold. It was uncomfortable. So what I do, I put my toes in, and I was like, I can't do it. And everyone's like, "Just do it, come on." And I was like, all right. So then I went to my ankles, and I was like, all right, I'm going to just gradually adjust. And I think my dad, he came in, he just pushed me right in. And I was so upset. I was like, just so angry. He embarrassed me, and it was cold, and I was miserable now, and everyone was playing. But then after I got in the water, it wasn't cold anymore. I was like, all right, so it's not cold. I want to play. So I started playing. I was like, all right, so it's not cold anymore, so now I'm not bothered by it. Right? So that's how it is when we don't know about something that's for our benefit. You know, it's within our benefit to go to school. It's within our benefit to have fun with our friends. But because we don't know, then, you know, there's all kinds of fears and doubts. But what are those doubts really come from? What does it really come from? Why do we have doubts about the unknown? It's actually because of we're really attached to our current situation. So because we're really attached to that which we know, we can have a lot of doubts about that which we don't know. So so that's how it is on the spiritual path as well. Sometimes we're reluctant to take a spiritual path because of the unknown. What if it's wrong? What if I practice this thing, this religion, or this path? And what if it happens to be wrong? What if, I'm scared and everyone's like, oh, if you do this and this, you're going to go to hell forever. And you're like, okay, what if it's true? So I better practice it. But then maybe somebody's practicing it and then they're like, wait a minute, what if there is no God? Maybe I better just enjoy as much as I can right now if I have to beg, borrow, or steal. So these doubts arise. And if you meet a very spiritually dedicated person, you can become confused. You might actually become confused. And how is it that this person is so simple, Like if you meet a monk or somebody who's really dedicated, it doesn't have to be a monk, but a monk's a good example. Somebody who's simple. So from one point of view, they've given up so many things. They don't, party. You won't see a monk drinking beer. Maybe. Depends. I read this story. It was about monks in Japan who they pretty much got paid to be priests, and they did their monk business in the morning. They chanted mantras, and then at night they went out and partied at the clubs. And nobody saw anything wrong with that. They're like, hey, he's a good monk. He does his job, right? And they interviewed him. He's like, yeah, it's a great lifestyle. We're spiritual, and that. So that might happen. But generally, monks are persons who are simple. They're humble. They're austere. So monks they give up a lot of pleasures that a lot of people don't. Like monks don't watch TV. Monks, usually they don't listen to any kind of other music or anything like that. Monks they don't do what most people are doing. And even monks can be so austere they don't even use like beds or pillows. They can be really simple and austere. So from a person who is outside of that, they could be like, whoa, that's freaky. That's too much. I gotta have my TV show. I got my TV show. I got my... Forget a bed. I need a huge, fluffy, comforter. I need it all. I need to go out on the weekends. I gotta express myself. I need some clothes. I need a tattoo right on my face. People are going all out. That's the culture that we live in. We're not being extreme. It's true. So that's the tendency to enjoy. That's normal. So we gotta wonder, what's up? What's going on there? So really, nobody can do anything unless there's a pleasure. We're pleasure-seeking by nature. The Vedas say, Anando Maya Vyasa. We're made to look for happiness and pleasure. Everything we do is pleasure. Even once this just came up, I gotta share it, but when I was in downtown Salt Lake City, and I think I was walking with a friend, and we saw some Gothic, I don't know what you call it, Gothic people, or some Gothic person, and his eyes were like bright white, I think he had some contacts in there, but he looked all like scary, and like one was red and one was white, or some thing, and he was like talking to his friends, and we were standing there talking, and he kept like looking at me, like giving me these weird faces, like he was possessed by a demon. He looked like Marilyn Manson or whatever, I don't know. And then he was like listening to his music, and like this, and then he pulled up his shirt, and then he's like this, pretending like he was cutting, and where he was doing that, there was actually like real cuts, like where he's cut himself, and he's like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. So even a person who's like self-abuse, he's looking for pleasure, and he's thinking, yeah, I'm onto something cool here, So however crazy it is, in people who commit suicide, people who just have had it with this world, it's actually an attempt to not suffer. So I wouldn't say that they're looking for pleasure from doing that, but on one sense it kind of is. They're looking for relief. They're looking to stop the misery. So everything we do is to look for pleasure. Everything. So when a person is like a monk, or we see somebody who's simple, we just, there can't be pleasure there. But there must be pleasure there. There has to be something there. So when we are too attached to our current situation, then we can't. In other words, I'll put it like this: when Patanjali, who's founded yoga is very popular now. Everyone and their mother is doing yoga, and their dog too. I saw a picture of yoga dogs. Their mommies were exercising their arms and getting all kind of yoga exercise. So everyone's cat yoga too. Baby yoga, everyone's doing yoga. So it's good. We have a yoga culture. So Patanjali, he actually founded the yoga system. He taught something really crucial. He said there's 3 kinds of suffering in this world. So we all want to be happy, but we don't want suffering. So we should know what suffering is to avoid it. So this is what he says. There's 3 kinds of suffering, and it's due when our senses, our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears, touch, are too attached to the object of the senses. So he said, when attachment is there, that is what's creating your suffering. So he said, this suffering has 3 phases. This is very important. Listen closely. He says, when you want to contact your senses with the object of the senses, when you're desiring it, that desire is suffering. Because it's the anticipation. Am I going to get it? Is it going to happen? Am I going to get the money? Am I going to get the ice cream or whatever? I want. So that wanting is a kind of anxiety in itself. And that wanting that which you cannot have is the first kind. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. The second kind, when you get it. Doesn't make sense. I got it. I should be happy. But here's what happens. You get it. But you got it. But the mind is still in that state of wanting. So that's what it's called, a greed. You got it. But it's not enough. You want more. And there's a fear that I'm going to lose it. So I have it, and any minute I'm going to lose it. So So, or it's going to break. I slammed on this and he looked and he's like, hey, that's my harmonium. So he's thinking, hi. So, oops, sorry. So any minute it could break. Or, hey, I have a big bank account, I'm Paris Hilton, I'm living large, but what if I die in a plane crash? So everyone has anxiety, even Paris Hilton, everyone. And then, so that's the present. And you got that? Mm-hmm. Okay, the next one, the last one. Anyone want to take a guess? Past, present, future. What would future be? When your senses are not in contact with the object. So you want it, I gotta have it. Then you contact it, oh, now I don't want it to go, it's not enough. And then it goes away and you're like, oh, now I don't have it. So that's called lamentation or sadness. So he said there's 3 kinds of suffering. And in other words, when we're too attached to what we know, then we don't let in higher things. And that's exactly what yoga is meant to do. That's the purpose of yoga, is to detach us from material things that are unnecessary. Not everything is unnecessary, but things that are unnecessary. And by doing that, simultaneously you cultivate attachment to things which are absolutely necessary for the soul, for the spirit. That's spirituality. Things that your body can do without, but the spirit needs. Spirit needs love, trust, knowledge, wisdom. These are called inalienable assets. They're not things you can buy with money. But we put so much stress on the things you can buy with money for happiness. But it's wise to minimize what we don't really actually need. And in other words, if your cup is full with all this material stuff, you got to empty it out to put something new in. So in order to do that, it's going to hurt a little when you take the attachment. I'm really attached to what I know. But just like when they push you in the water, it's like, all right, now you're getting some confidence. You're getting some confidence. And that water that when we used to swim in that Miller's Pit, I was saying, like when we grew up, it was a place of enjoyment. We would jump off the cliffs. We would like, hey, this is great, you know. So as you grow spiritually, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. But in the beginning, it's recommended you give up some of your materialistic endeavors. And in the beginning, it'll be a little difficult, but if you continue in that way and cultivate spiritual things, then gradually we can get strength. And we'll enjoy it, because that's the whole purpose of life. So yoga gives us that. Ramante yogino nante. That the pleasure of the yogis is unlimited bliss. So that's what we want, bliss, and we want to avoid suffering. So that is Patanjali, and that is some tips I'm sharing. Thank you very much.